It is Friday at Le Mans. No on-track activity for cars today. However, plenty of activity still going on for fans, media, drivers, really everybody. There's going to be the driver parade in downtown Le Mans a little bit later this afternoon as we're recording this. Currently, the fan pit walk is taking place just to my right. So lots of people out here and enjoying a beautiful day, another beautiful day here in France. Yesterday, of course, was the final day of qualifications. We've set our grid and plenty of storylines. How about the fastest field in the 85-year history of this race? Pretty incredible stuff. All four classes, the pole sitters, setting class track records. Kamui Kobayashi smashing the overall track record in this configuration for Toyota. Really impressive lap, over 2 seconds clear of the next closest opponent in LMP1. LMP2 saw Alex Lynn for G-Drive take the top spot, breaking the track record by over 11 seconds for LMP2. Then Darren Turner for Aston Martin in GTE Pro, while Arbor Competition in the GTE AM class took pole position with Fernando Reis behind the wheel of that Corvette. So plenty of storylines, and we'll be bringing in a couple of experts to help us walk through them all in just a moment. Bringing in our panelist of experts now, John Dagys, founder and editor of Sportscar365.com, and James Newbold, who's been with us helping out on site throughout the week as well. Guys, plenty of news this week. At a big press conference earlier this morning, John, the ACO laying out the future groundwork for the LMP1 hybrid class. Got a peek into what the future regulations are going to look like. What can you tell us?
Well, the big news is plug-in hybrids, and I guess what we see on the road is what the ACO is trying to bring to the track. Sometimes it's the other way around, but basically what they're trying to do in 2020 is have a fast-charging electric burst of energy that would be plugged into the cars during the pit stops, and then have the cars complete the first kilometer of the racetrack all on electric power. And it's an innovative move by the ACO and FIA to be a little different than the other championships like Formula E, which is entirely on electric power, or other championships that aren't using electric, hybrid technology right now. So I think this is a good move. It's an interesting one. I'm a little concerned about the cost side of things because we're talking about cost reduction. The ACO, FIA have been sort of stressing on that for quite some time, and all of a sudden they're trying to introduce something a little bit that could be a bit more expensive. So, there's been other areas of the regulations they've been working on cutting, including the limitations on crew, testing, some aero restrictions, going down to one body kit for LMP1 for the entire season. And, I guess we're going to have to wait and see whether this will attract more manufacturers, kind of in a wait-and-see mode, especially with Porsche on the brink of potentially withdrawing at the end of the year.
Well, only time will tell, and we'll be, of course, keeping tabs on all the latest at Sportscar365.com. James, a big story coming into the weekend was concerns over balance of performance. Thankfully, what we found is, by and large, it would seem those concerns have been largely unfounded. It seems like most teams are pretty optimistic about their chances. What have you heard, and what expectations, BOP-wise, do you have when we get to race day tomorrow?
Yeah, first of all, Ryan, it makes a real nice change not to be having to chase a BOP story on Friday. After last year, Ford and Ferrari had the balance of performance pegged back. Aston Martin, Porsche, Corvette were given a little bit of a help, which ultimately didn't really make too much of a difference come race day. It was an unprecedented move last year at the time. This year, it seems a much more straightforward approach. The extra work that the ACO has put into it before the event seems to pay dividends. We had Aston Martin, who a lot of teams, to be honest, didn't really seem to give them a shot, but the high temperatures that we've seen all week here in France, it's really, really sunny, as you can probably tell, have really favoured the Dunlop tyres. So Aston Martin took out first and third positions. Darren Turner's really optimistic that they'll have a shot for the race win. It's 10 years since Aston Martin won the GT1 class. Can they get their first GTE Pro win? It'll be really fascinating to see whether they can work that out. We've got Ferraris in the mix, Corvette in the mix, We've got Porsche in the mix, we've got Ford, of course, looking for their defending win. The entire class, 13 cars, split by 1.7 seconds. I'm excited.
That's how it should be. We're excited to see how it's going to play out too. And James, you're not alone, and certainly the rest of the paddock wasn't alone in maybe being surprised and seeing what the Aston has been able to do. We talked about it on our podcast earlier in the week. We were saying Aston's probably got the most work to do. Here they are, maybe the favorites come race day. And speaking of picking favorites, it's about that time. Less than 24 hours as we're recording from the start of the 85th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. John, we'll begin with you. What do you expect to see? Who are the favorites in this race?
Well, I think it's still clear that Toyota is the favorite in LMP1. They've shown the upper edge all weekend long, putting in that amazing lap time by Kamui Kobayashi, a 3:14. I don't think anybody would have expected that kind of lap time to come from a LMP1 car this year. As long as they don't have reliability issues, I think they're a shoo-in for the win here in P1.
And James, how about in the GT classes? Do you have you amended your prediction from earlier in the week on the podcast?
Well, I basically gave everybody a shot apart from Aston Martin. It'll be fantastic to see if Aston Martin can do it, but really, it's far too early still to say. Darren Turner said that he got a clear lap time, and he only pipped James Gallardo by 1/10 of a second, so it really is still far too close to call at the moment. Ford came out of the traps late in the session, and I still think they've got more pace to come, so it'll be really interesting to see on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
And then back to the prototype ranks at LMP2. It seems like Orica's got this pretty well on lockdown at this point. No rain in the forecast, which I'm sure several of the other manufacturers were hoping for. John, no chance anyone breaks up this Orica domination that we've seen so far, right?
No, not at all. I'd be really surprised if we saw a non-Orica on the LMP2 podium, even though there is some hope from the Ligier camp. We'll have to wait and see.
All right, so just some of the storylines that we'll be keeping tabs on throughout the 24 hours. Keep it tuned to the website for all the latest information. Big thanks to Luke behind the camera. John and James, thanks for your insight. We'll be talking with you later on in the weekend, also on the podcast next week. Hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. Thanks for watching.